Hello and welcome to Clamp, the Creating, Living, and Making podcast. I'm your host, Morley Kurt, and joining me as always is Grant Alexander.
Hello.
Adam Mackey.
Yoo-hoo.
And joining us this week, we have a special guest, Emily Joyce.
Hello.
Emily, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming on. Before we dive into what's in our clamps this week, I think it would be good if you just gave the people listening a brief rundown of just a bit of your background and what do you make and what you do.
Sure. I'm Emily Joyce, and I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. I'm a former teacher. I taught all grades art from kindergarten through 12th grade, and I taught for 12 years, and I left teaching at the end of last year to pursue making art full-time. So here I am, making art full-time.
That's awesome.
Can you tell everyone what you went to school for?
Yeah,
I think that's a really cool thing.
Yes, I studied at the Cleveland Institute of Art in enameling, and it was the only program in the United States that offered enameling at the time, and I got my degree. So I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts in enameling. And then I went on to pursue a one-year teaching certificate, like a master's of teaching. So I have 2 degrees. Yeah.
Cool.
It's a very specialized degree.
Yes.
Well, more recently, Emily, what have you been working on this week or recently? What's been in your clamps?
All right. So the last week I finished up 5 commissions. So I had 5 different things going on, and I just finished the last one on Monday. And then I immediately jumped into, I'm trying to get some inventory I know that it's a very far, long distance away, but like winter is coming. And so I'm trying to get lots of things like in my inventory for the holidays. I know it sounds crazy, but I made 60 pairs of earrings this week.
Whoa. Dang.
That's a lot of earrings. But your stuff sells out really quickly. Like I noticed, I recently purchased some Emily Joyce originals, some bunny earrings, and I went to go find the listing on your website, and I couldn't find it to show my wife, so I had to go find it through your Instagram. At least I couldn't find it. Maybe I just suck at finding stuff on your website, but I had to go find them through the Instagram to show them, like, you know, in process or all the different colors that had been available.
Yeah. I actually moved them. I moved them from the classroom pets into the teacher's lounge.
But the classroom pet was so cute.
It was cute, but it was like the only one. And then I was like, am I going to make any more classroom pets? I don't know. And I felt bad for the bunnies all alone. So I moved them over to be with others.
Emily, what percentage of your sales would you say are focused on the holidays? That you're starting on them 7 months early?
You know, so I guess it's not even the holidays that I'm worried about too. I guess it's the galleries. So I have my work into 5 galleries, and I'm adding another gallery next week. Wow. So I don't know. It's hard to say because last year was my first year going through the holidays, but I sold so many earrings. So I guess I was like, oh man, I need to really stock up because I don't want to be what I was doing. What I was doing this year was like, it was December 1st and I was cranking out multiples, and I just felt so overwhelmed also with commissions. So I'm trying to approach the holiday time very differently this year, as in prepared and organized. Nice. Yeah.
Well, I wish you all the best. That sounds like a much better experience than just going into a blind.
Hopefully. We'll see.
Yeah. Grant, what have you been up to this week?
Well, this week I actually finally back in February I think I talked about being interviewed for a channel, and the interview finally went live. It was with Make or Break, and the interview finally went live, so that was really fun. I got to see what they did. They did an amazing job editing the whole thing together, and it
Yeah, that
really
was really good editing.
yeah, it felt like it when I read it back, like because I was obviously part of the conversation, and there was like lag on the telephone and stuff, and there's like once they stopped talking, I would wait 3 or 4 seconds to make sure that before I started, and they would do the same to me, so that we wouldn't have any audio problems. Um, but it was it was really fun, and they just did a great job, and it really felt like we were having the conversation. So that was really cool. I also, I finished finally the closet build, and I've moved into my master bedroom that I started in 2016. So, gaming. It's been a long time coming. I will one day.
So where have you been sleeping?
So we had a 4-bedroom house, and there was only 2 of us at the time. So I tore down the walls between the smallest room and the master bedroom, and turned it into a very, very large room. And then I extended the bathroom that was in the master bedroom. The master bedroom bathroom was a 2-piece. I extended it, made it a 4-piece or 3-piece. I don't know, whatever. Like a full stand-up shower, 2 sinks, and a toilet. We were staying in I don't know. It's a 4-bedroom house. What do you call the other rooms? Guest rooms? Because they're not kids' rooms when you don't have kids. I don't know how it works.
Bedrooms?
I guess the other bedrooms. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know the way, Grant, you must know the way that Quebec refers to the size of apartments or houses just by a number? No. So they won't say like 4-bedroom, 2-bath. They'll say like this is a 6.5 apartment. Oh. And each like room gets a number, and then bathrooms get half numbers, and it is incredibly confusing. It makes no sense.
Yeah. So how do you know if it's a 1-bedroom with like 10 bathrooms, or
you got to like get out some scratch paper and start doing long division? It's the most like unfriendly system.
Yeah, but even then, how do you know if like a 1 is meant to be 2?
I don't know, man.
I think they also everyone moves on the same day,
right?
And you take your appliances with you when you're renting.
Yeah.
It's really like weird. Everywhere I've rented, the fridge and the stove, like the big appliances, stayed in the house.
No, if you rent a house in Australia, it's empty. Like you bring your own stuff everywhere.
Oh, that's so.
Unless you rent like a furnished apartment.
Oh, really? In Ontario, it comes with everywhere I've rented has come with a fridge and a stove, and like if there's a dishwasher, it comes with the dishwasher installed.
Well, yeah, it comes with that stuff. But a fridges bring your own. But it's got its own stove and dishwasher and
in Quebec you bring that stuff.
That's not true in all of my experiences, but we don't have to parse through every single experience.
Well, okay, in the Quebec region near I live.
Okay, I'm sure it's different place to place.
Totally, it's just weird that everyone moves on the same day in Quebec. It's called Moving Day, and it's on August 1st, I believe. Anyways, really weird. I don't know where we got this, but I was living in the other. Now I have a 3-bedroom house. For the last 3 years ago, I finished the master bathroom and we've been using it, and the master bedroom has just been a hallway. So it's really weird we've been walking through the master bedroom unfinished, empty, and using it as a giant hallway to get to the bathroom that we use. So it's been really weird to walk into the hallway I've been using for 3 years, and now I sleep in the hallway is what it feels like. But it was obviously just a giant room. Anyways, I'm excited about that. And the last thing I want to talk about is that I released a video this week of a leather-working maul. I think I talked about it being a mallet, and that's because if you're making it out of wood and you're using it for chisels, it's a mallet. If you're making it out of anything and then using it for leatherworking, they call it a maul. And I think that's just because leatherworkers like to be difficult. But yeah, it's from High Caliber Craftsman, and if you're interested in that, you can actually buy your own kit. And I think Morley's got one too. And it was a really fun build using some scrap rubbish wood. I'll be talking more about rubbish wood in the Clampmendations.
What's the hammer made out of?
It's UMVH.
It's like HDPE. Yeah, it's like harder HDPE. It's a type of plastic.
Or it's like Delrin.
Delrin, that was my first guess.
Yeah. I think Delrin's like the name. Like
quick point of order. If anyone watching the YouTube video has been seeing my microphone raise and me then push it back down, it's because I'm using my cantilevered microphone stand and my cat, Penny, has been pushing down on the counterweight from her cat tree, just staring at me as she does it. So I got Eden to move the cat tree away so she'll stop doing it. Anyways.
That's cute. Grant, what are you going to use the mallet for? Like, what is it? Like, what's the tool intended to do for you? Like,
it is intended for leatherworking.
Okay.
To hit like either stamps or the little pricking irons. Because before that, I was using something from the 80s that I found in my dad's garage that like had been eaten by mice. So it didn't have any like rubber on one side. Like it was a half rubber, half nylon mallet. And like the rubber side had been eaten off. So yeah. So it's a big upgrade.
What's the needle thing that you use to put the holes in? What is that made out of? Because it looks like it would dent the Delrin.
So I think that it's made out of metal, but that's what these mallets are made for. So if it starts eating into the whole point is you don't want to wreck your tool because the tool, like, I don't know. Everything I did in the research said this is the right material and that's what I'm supposed to be using it for. I don't know.
Yeah.
I agree. Cool. That's what I thought. And I went, well, that's what I'm going to use it for. And if I wreck it,
so I guess as a point of comparison,
send me another one.
As a point of comparison, I have used a rawhide mallet for the duration of my leatherworking career, if you can call it that, which is probably softer than Delrin, and it does slightly deform over time, but it absorbs the impact, and it's relatively durable.
Yeah. From what I've read, is that these ones are like the upgrade over rawhide because rawhide starts to flake off, and that's otherwise they're very similar in strength and all that.
Cool. Well, Adam, my man, what have you been doing this week?
I've actually had a pretty productive week for once. I got the floating shelf done, currently editing the video for that. And that's going to be my entry into Datamade's Rubbish Wood Challenge. So that will be out before this episode comes out because it has to be. And then I started restoring an old hand miter saw. So that's been completely pulled apart. It's all painted and everything now. And then just before we started recording, I went in and sanded. So where you put the actual timber to cut it is like there's raised bits, like the bed that the wood sits on. So I painted the whole thing and then I've sanded that off. So the raised part is like bare metal.
Yes.
So
I was wondering about that. When I saw it in your stories, I was like, I hope Adam knows what he's doing here because it's not looking. I've seen people do some strange things like painting their brakes, and they paint like the brake pads and the disc in both, and you just go like, "You've done this wrong." So
no. I'm pretty pumped that it's turned out pretty good. So I hopefully, if my baby sleeps again this afternoon, I'm going to get it fully together today. And then I'm trying to decide. I started buffing up the blade that came with it, but now I'm thinking it'd probably just be better to just buy a new one. But I think I'll keep what I'm using for now, just to get the video done.
I always go with a new blade, and then I take the old blade and I say, I'm going to use you for rough cutting stuff that I'm not sure if it has nails in it. And then what I do is I wreck the new blade. And then I just have to go back to the old blade.
But yeah, no, I think I'll use the old one just to get the video and stuff done because it's going to take like a month for a new blade to come. Because you can't just buy them locally; have to buy it online. Yeah. What else? I designed a new shirt, which I'm pretty happy about. So I've had this idea for a while that I've wanted to make a shirt that says something along the lines of, "I don't always measure twice, but when I don't, I cut twice."
Mm-hmm.
But then I came up with a new idea of making it. It says, "I don't always measure twice, but if I don't remember what it says now." How good's that? I don't always measure twice, but then I don't cut once, or something along those lines. So I made the measure twice and the cut once bigger, so that from a distance, like the first thing you see is measure twice, cut once, and not like the little So bit of a hidden message. So yeah, pretty happy with how that turned out. And the last thing is starting next week is the push-up challenge, which Emily's doing with me.
Nice.
Yep, I'm super excited.
Yeah.
I want to get better at my push-ups, and I like your cause. I thought it was an excellent.
It's really cool.
Cause.
I'm excited to see how much I improve over the 25 days.
Yeah,
like I can easily pump out like 15 push-ups, like right now, but I don't think I could do more than that. Like I'll have to split it up over the day. By the end of the 25 days, I want to try and get to like 30 or 40 push-ups in a row.
Adam, what's the cause? Give it a quick plug.
So it's called Push for Better, and it's for the mental health of men suffering from depression and suicide. So the goal is over 25 days to do 3,318, I think, push-ups. And that is how many people died in 2019 to depression. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's 3,300 odd push-ups over 25 days is about 135 a day, but each day has a different amount. So one day might be 80, the next day might be 150.
So it's like an average of that per day.
So each day has a certain number to hit, and each number has a meaning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But you don't have to hit them all. You get, even if you hit 25%, everything helps.
I did push-ups yesterday. I did 5, and I went, "Yay! That's a 2021 max."
That's my number. I'm at 5. One day I did 6 in a row, and I was like, "Wow, I'm so strong. I don't have to do this again for a week." And then I didn't. So yeah, my goal for the end of June is to be able to do 10 solid push-ups in a row.
Right. I one time at the office, somebody said do push-ups, and I knew like 5 was my normal max I could do, but there was a bunch of people watching, and so I did 15. So you just have to have like some reason that you need to do more than you normally would, like people watching, peer pressure, and then all of a sudden you can do more.
I actually put up a story yesterday. I recorded myself at the gym doing push-ups to try and promote the push-up challenge. And I pumped out 10 like really quick on a step. So I was like one hand on a step, one hand on the floor doing push-ups. I pumped out 10 easily while I was recording. Then I stopped the recording and just sat there for the next set and did nothing. But my plan is to record every push-up.
Okay.
It does help. Yeah. That's what I'm finding that as well with skateboarding, like getting myself motivated to really try to perfect a trick is just like setting up a camera. And number one, like I just like filming myself when I'm working on tricks, and I don't know, when I used to do parkour, like, and I would practice different flips and things. It just helps to like check out my form, but it also motivates to me to like try the same trick 100 times in a row because, it just pushes at you a little bit over the edge to keep going.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but this week, I haven't got a ton of skateboarding in, although I did explode another bearing, and I did catch it on film this time.
Saw that.
Yeah, I think it's just not very good bearings on the skateboard. But I bought a set to switch them out. So just each time one explodes, I just switch it out, so it's all good. But I am also working on my stacked handle video. I'm thinking of calling the video something like the most complicated way to make a stacked handle, because without having access to a lathe, I did it in many, many different steps. And it kind of started as like, okay, I want to use a laser cutter at work to laser cut the leather and then maybe mix in some other materials. But rather than mixing in another material, I just made a new material. I made micarta out of epoxy and denim. And I kind of used my drill as a makeshift lathe to turn it down. So in the end, I kind of did use a lathe anyway. So it was basically just like making a handle my way. But I haven't had a ton of time to edit it this past week, just because work has been really busy in a good way. But maybe I'll have it done before the episode comes out. Who knows? But it's a fun one. And Grant, I haven't watched your video yet, and I probably won't until I finish mine, because that's just, I don't like having my creative process influenced in that way. But I'll check yours out once I'm done mine. But yeah, it's a fun one. It'll be, it's I don't think it is the most complicated way, but just because I kind of approached it not the proper way, just with my tool set, it was a very interesting train of events.
Totally.
Yeah, and
I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. And I'm looking forward to watching yours once I'm done mine.
Well, get on it.
I am. I'm getting there. Otherwise, I finished up a project I've been working on for a couple weeks yesterday that I can't really talk about too much because I signed an NDA about it. But it is going to be part of a TV show. It's not a TV show that I'm going to be on, but it's for someone else who is going to be on the show. And I'm kind of helping. Well, it was a job for them to make something for them as that will be used on the show.
Awesome. Like a prop or a costume, or like how far can you disclose as part of your
made of wood. It's made of wood.
If we guess the name of the show, can you tell us if it's all right?
I don't know if the show exists yet, so I don't think you'll be able to guess it.
Making it season 3.
No, it's not that. But that was cool, and that was kind of taking up some of my after work time the past couple weeks. So it's part of the reason as well why I've been so slow on this edit. But it was nice to get that done and get that weight off, and I think it turned out pretty well. And I have that person off and running, and I hope they do amazing, beautiful things with it. And then, it's been, like I alluded to earlier, getting the camp set up for summer has been some late nights and getting the instructors all trained. But it's been really fun. And even just today, we started moving all of our materials and equipment into one of the locations that we're going to be running the camp from this summer. And I'm just so excited to get the kids there and actually start like implementing all these lessons we've been planning. You can only really do so much planning. And Emily, I'm sure you have experience with this. Like, you can only plan so much at a certain point. You have to just start trying things out. And we're trying to encourage everyone to test out their lessons, but you don't really know how something's going to run until you're in front of a bunch of kids. Right. And, you have all those variables pop up.
Yes, at 100%. It just reminded me of something funny, which I'll share later. But yeah.
And it is a lot, but I think it'll be like a resurgence of energy once all the kids arrive, because it's a lot of work right now. And then once the summer starts, it's only going to be even more work, but I think it'll be a lot more fun work, especially because as of now in Ontario, our COVID coming back from COVID is going pretty okay. So I think people are feeling relatively optimistic. So we'll see what happens. But as of now, camps are going to be running. But yeah, I think it's very timely, Emily, that we're having you on, because I've been thinking a lot about teaching. Like I got into this job because I want to become a teacher. And, every time someone brings something to me to run it by, we were like always thinking about like, okay, like how are the kids going to take this? Are they going to have fun with this? Are they going to get this? If you try to tell a 9-year-old Newton's second law, will they even know what you're talking about? Like, how can we show this to them? So it's been a very, very interesting experience.
Awesome. I want to hear more about the types of lessons you're planning and like what kind of camps they are. And so I'm excited I want to talk to you more about that later, but.
All right. Well, I'll give you a quick elevator pitch since we're in it. Okay. So the session we're planning right now, it's our most like makery session. So it's very hands-on, and the idea is that the kids are inventing and designing, and they're doing a lot of hands-on projects. The theme is actually Dragon's Den, and for the Americans, it's Shark's Tank. And so we're doing a lot of projects where they're making like different mechanisms, and it's all building towards an arcade on the final day, where each cabin is kind of going to make an arcade game together, some like physical, like giant pinball machine or whatever, and then they'll play each other's games. Yeah, so it's a day camp, and you can only do so much at a day camp, right? Because the kids have to leave at like 4:30, and then they come the next day. But me and other people at the camp come from going to sleepaway camp for many years. So we're trying to bring those more like campy, traditional camp feeling things into it, as much as we can, and try to make it not feel like school, even though it is an educational STEM centered camp.
Okay.
I've never heard of a day camp before.
Is that not a thing in Australia?
Not that maybe it is, but I've never heard of it. Every
like, do they call it summer school?
You stay away. No. We have like summer. Well, it's not really summer camp. We just have camp.
Interesting.
I remember going to camp when I was a kid, but like you go away for like a few days, not just.
Yeah. So when I went to a day camp before I was old enough to go to the sleepaway camp that all my siblings went to, and those were like 2-week sessions. You stay there, but day camps are also relatively common, where you're basically going school hours during the day, Monday to Friday.
So it's like daycare, but you actually do stuff.
Yeah, it's like camp, but you just don't sleep there.
All right.
So, Morley, when you're thinking of planning all these things, are you thinking about any particular teachers that you've had in the past that have inspired you to, like, are you thinking back on that, or are you thinking of like what I wish teachers had done for me?
I'm thinking about some projects from school, but one of the things one of our marketing tactics is a lot of parents will say like, I wish I had something like this when I was a kid. And many of the things we do, I don't really feel like I had that experience as a kid. I feel like a lot of what I'm drawing on is my own experience at summer camp. And it's so amazing thinking back, because I've been doing that a lot recently, like just reflecting back and trying to draw from those experiences. Like even when we were being taught things, it didn't feel boring, and it didn't feel like we were being lectured, because we were always doing hands-on things. There wasn't any just like sitting and listening. I think it's the interactivity part of it that makes hands-on learning so effective and fun, especially for kids. We're trying to emphasize that as much as possible. It's like, okay, how can you replace just explaining this concept with them with like a demonstration or talking about it as you're doing something, which I think will work. I mean, we'll see. I feel like it's got to be more effective than just talking at people.
So they have tools in their hands and.
Oh yeah, we try
tools and.
Yeah, we try to make it age appropriate, but hand drills and hand saws, and they probably won't be using the miter saw, and maybe some of the most responsible oldest kids, but I didn't love shop class when I was in school. I've talked about that before. Like, it wasn't one of my favorite classes. I think I didn't love the structure of it. So it's not like, I feel like that would be the natural thing to draw from, but that never really inspired me as a kid.
When we were in school in shop class, it was, you knew what your end product was going to be, right? Like, you were told you're making a gumball machine. So here's the plans for a gumball machine or whatever. That's what I made. And we made a gumball machine. We made a step stool.
Adam's laughing, but Adam, that is a very classic shop class project in American schools.
Okay.
We had a toolbox.
Well, that's cool. Like
a gumball machine. What?
It's like a very simple like wooden mechanism on the inside that's like turning, and there's a jar on top. It's like a very.
That's
it's
so
not like
cool though.
Yeah.
So
I would have
yeah,
loved to have made something that like functioned.
so I will say it's cool. Like I still have mine. I still have my step stool. But the issue that I have as I became an art teacher was I don't want everybody to make the exact same thing. I want them to come up with their own design or their own plan. And then when I did become a teacher, I realized that 26 kids all with their own plans is chaos. But
Right.
I'd rather have chaos than 26 perfect gumball machines.
Yeah. And
So-
that sort of chaos is like something that I think we are trying to kind of garner in a camp setting, which is probably easier than a school setting because that's kind of what is more expected. So we are trying to go for a lot of the more like open-ended design challenges, but I can understand, especially when you're trying to grade, that can be very difficult. But I guess that brings up a whole other topic is like, how do you grade an art class?
Right.
So I don't know how it works over there in normal school, but here in Australia, so you have to do English as a subject, and then you get to choose all your classes when you're in year 11 and 12. So my classes were, surprise, surprise, I did advanced maths, English because I had to. I did construction working, woodworking, industrial technology, and engineering studies. But so the way that you're 7 through 10 shop class, we don't call it that, is well that was also like a selective subject. So you got 2 selective subjects a year, and you could do so. There was like woodworking and metalworking. So with woodworking, we were given projects to do, but year 11 and 12, your entire shop class is your own project to then get judged at the end of year 12 as your like final assessment, like how you would do. Like I'm assuming you guys have like a test that you do at the end of high school to get like a number for uni, for college and stuff.
Yeah. Well, in the States they do like SATs, so like high school
SATs,
grades
yeah.
seem to not matter. It matters, like if you want to get into university, it matters more what you did on this singular test.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that singular test is what we call an HSC, which we do at the end of high school, like year 12. And then that's what we use to get into like university and stuff. So the projects that we make over the 2 years in our shop class is that score is then goes on to our HSC. Yeah. So I spent 2 years making an outdoor setting.
Yeah. I hope it was really good.
That was shit.
So in my school, we had a similar like they designed projects that would teach you skills, and then if you continued on with that, you got free reign. But the like grade 9 entry level, like that's our entry level shop class. But I'll talk more about how I had shop class in grade 6 a little later. But in grade 9 shop class, it's like you're going to learn how to build an Adirondack chair. But before you learn how to build an Adirondack chair, you have to build this, this, and this, and that'll teach you the skills on the planer, on the thicknesser, on the all the different school tools, so you don't kill yourself. P.S. Half of you are high, so you probably shouldn't be here. But then later, if you continue, then you get free reign.
Yeah. And I will say, like, that was a great thing about shop class is that it gave me exposure to all of these different tools. Like, I used a lathe for the first time in shop class and then didn't touch one again until I went to a makerspace in university. And I was like, oh, I've seen lots of videos about this, but I do have like a little bit of muscle memory of actually some experience using it as a teenager. So that was good in that respect. It just wasn't, it was stressful in the same way as any other class with projects was stressful in high school, where you're expected to make a certain thing, and there's pressure to do that.
What was really pressuring for me was the tool time, because there's only so many tools and there's too many people, and it's like there's no way you can. It's an hour and a half class, 3-hour class, whatever it was, I can't remember, and that's it. And there's 20 kids trying to all use the miter station at the same time, and you just line up behind each other. And it's like if you're the bullied kid, you just go directly to the back of the line so that you don't get made fun of and bullied. right? So that's me standing at the back of the line. Then you're the last one to go through all the tools. And then at the end of it, there's no overtime. There's no like, I'll just stay up late. That's what was really frustrating to me. So I think I would have enjoyed shop class a lot more in high school and continued in it had it not been for the fact that I felt like you just ended up being so limited because everyone's working on the same project, starting with the same material. So you're all starting with rough lumber. And the first thing you do is you take it over to the jointer and then you take it over to the planer. You know, it's like everyone went through the same steps. So it just felt like there's 20 kids going through the same thing. And I just went through this twice. So I'm going to stop it there.
We didn't have a jointer and thicknesser and stuff. We just got clean wood to begin with and then build something. But something that my teachers didn't do, was that annoyed me is that, say someone's using the bandsaw and the blade breaks or the blade comes off, that tool is then not used the rest of the day, and they fix it on the lunch break. How about stop the class and say, hey, come here and I'll show you how to set it up. No one ever showed us how to set up a bandsaw. I still to this day don't even know how to set it up, and that's why I never use them, because I have one sitting downstairs and I never use because I cannot be bothered to learn how to set it up.
Yeah.
Or the table saw we weren't allowed to use, but we had to set it up. Not in the sense of like getting stuff. Like all we had to do was go set the fence where we want it and raise the blade to the right height, and then we weren't allowed to touch anything else.
Yeah, I think that kind of speaks to a larger, and maybe Emily, maybe you can comment on this, like a larger difficulty that just teachers have to deal with is that you're balancing all these different like things that you're trying to get done. Like you have district requirements that you're trying to meet and all these curriculum points that you're trying to hit. And I feel like it takes someone with like a massive self-awareness and awareness of the classroom and everything that's going on to like recognize those moments to stop the whole class. And because you have, I don't know, you just have to do so much as a teacher in the course of a school day.
Right. And I think it depended on the age of the kids. So, elementary school, my guess is I would say, out of order, put a sign on it, keep working. Whereas if they were middle school and older, I would have more of an opportunity to say, come on over, because I would meet with them more and the classes were longer.
Yeah.
So I think it would really just depend on also, obviously, your teacher. But there were so many restrictions when I taught public school in terms of, grading, curriculum, things I had to do. And then on top of that, comment writing, which, I am not a writer, so comment writing takes me 10% longer than anybody else in the whole building. So I'd have to start earlier. And I always felt like teaching was, at least for me, ended up being so many other things that I didn't think it was going to be.
That's not really how shop class worked for us. Like we weren't judged on what we made. It was, here, make this thing and take it home. Even with the 2-year final assessment, that had nothing to do with our teachers. They were there to like guide us if we needed them to cut something on the table saw or something. Like even in year 12, when I was 17 years old, I wasn't allowed to use a table saw. But they had nothing to do with it. They have people come from Sydney and come and judge our projects from like university. So our like we never got judged on anything that we made or anything like that. So we didn't have that sort of, they have a curriculum to follow.
I don't know if you saw my Instagram post where I posted a picture of my mother she was the first woman in Ontario to take wood shop. That was in grade 7. So like year 7. And she's using the tools. So I just think it's really funny that you're like, so that she's like year 7, you're 12? 12 years old?
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's using power tools. It's so different how like that, obviously that was that was a while ago. I won't say a long time ago. It was a while ago, right? So it's a little different, but I just think obviously like one that was like, I don't know. I think things have changed because there were lots of stories of people who had lost fingers by doing.
There was a guy in my class that lost a finger.
Yeah, that's probably why you weren't allowed to use the table saw.
Well, no, I can understand that, but it just annoyed me that they didn't really. It was like literally just make this thing nothing of like this is how you set something up, and
Yeah.
Right.
Gotcha.
you know,
So it
like
wasn't
it didn't.
inspiring.
It wasn't teaching.
Right.
They didn't teach us. It was literally just this is what you have to do. Follow these steps. It was like making a cake. Add these
Mhm.
ingredients and you're done. Like not you're adding this ingredient because it does this or anything like that. Even like if the glue bottle ran out of glue, we had to ask him to refill it. Like it's just stupid. All the power tools were locked in a cabinet. You had to get permission to use it.
Well,
The
that's the
only
nice.
power tools we're allowed to use without asking was a drill press.
Yeah, that's the nice thing about a makerspace and the whole concept of one is because the people who are involved have a sense of ownership of the space, and at least in ones that I think are run well, you try to engender in people that like there's no janitor here, there's no one who's going to clean up after you, so leave the space better
Yeah.
than you found it, and like this is how you like no one's going to fix this if you don't fix it. And of course that's a very difficult thing to instill in kids, but in a setting where there's a sense of shared ownership, I think it's easier to teach those sort of lessons.
Yeah, for sure. I've never thought of this, but how, in a makerspace, what happens with consumables? Like, is it like BYO glue and screws, or because
I think it
I've never
depends
been
on
to
the
a makerspace.
makerspace. I think
Oh,
it's
okay.
highly variable.
So why don't we get back to our
Hmm.
topic at hand a bit and talk a little bit more about kind of teachers and how they can influence you in a positive or negative way. So to put it out there, I in grade 6 we had a teacher who I think like really wanted to be a shop teacher, and they said, you know what, we're taking shop and taking it out of elementary school and we're putting it into high school. And he's like, I don't have the requirements to do shop in high school, so I'm going to stick in elementary school. And for some reason he decided he was going to have a little mini shop class inside of his classroom. So in grade 6 I had access to all the hand tools I could want, and all the every day we had like a 30-minute period of do whatever you want with all this scrap wood and hand tools and just go for it. So we would all make like little cars and race them, or pencil crossbows and try and shoot them at the seagulls, which totally was we didn't actually want to hit them.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So that was a very
So you had the
inspiring
blackjack of woodworking. Jack Black of woodworking.
Jack Black. Yes, exactly. That's kind of what it was.
Yes.
And then
Yeah.
he got sick and he got cancer. And then we had substitute teachers who didn't feel comfortable around the tools. So we would then sit beside these tools we used to use every day because they weren't removed from the classroom, and not be able to use them. And like my motivation level for everything in life at that point, like grade 6, that was like the biggest thing in my life, right? Done, gone, everywhere downhill. Yeah, you could trace back probably a lot of things in my life to that moment, but obviously, like, I turned it around. But that was like, it's amazing to me how much of an inspiration one teacher can be. To then, like, the supply teachers were so the opposite, where they were like, come in like, I have to teach X, Y, and Z, and I'm doing it by reading the book in front of the class. So I wondered, does anyone have any, maybe Emily, since you're the guest, do you have any thoughts on teaching and inspiration and how to get people inspired?
Whew. You know, yes, I do have thoughts. I feel like, when I was teaching, you have a group of kids who, and I'm going to speak mostly right now to middle school since you're talking about your middle school experience. But, I taught 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and we were such a progressive school as in a private school. So I was able to really teach anything I wanted. And I had just unlimited resources and a fantastic budget. So I was super blessed as a teacher in my last few years teaching. But one thing I noticed is not every kid that is in your class really wants to be there. Some of them are filling out that requirement just to get them out of the way and to keep moving on. So you do have kids who are like, there's no purpose for me here. I don't know what you want me to do. And then my response to that is always clay, because clay is awesome and you can touch it and hold it. And so I always did a lot of three-dimensional projects. Another thing, which I really enjoyed doing, was building out of cardboard. And, my last 2 years teaching, they had just built a Fab Lab makerspace on campus. So I was also kind of competing with should I be doing the things that I was doing, like building out of cardboard? And, we would make Rube Goldberg machines and try and do rockets and stuff. And when the Fab Lab came, I kind of felt like maybe I should go back to more fundamentals of art, like, painting and drawing and that kind of thing. But, at the end of the day, I think kids, depending on what they wanted to do, I was a tab artist. I should say that. That's like a whole thing.
What is a tab artist? Oh, sorry, you're about to say.
I was more of a tab teacher is somebody who teaches artistic behavior. So instead of like teacher instructional, like me telling you, like, here's your gumball machine, we're all going to make this. I would set up stations or have kids design projects. So when you come into the art room, like, everybody would be doing something different. And that was okay. That was what they wanted to do. That was what they chose to do. It's crazy to manage, but more, I think, rewarding for the student. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that, a teacher instructed classroom is, worse. It's just, I discovered tab teaching and I loved it. And because I was at the school that had a budget and unlimited resources, I could do it. And kids just, they had such a good time, because even the kid that came in and was like, I don't want to do this, I can't draw. I'd be like, okay, what do you want to do? What do you want to make today? Or what's your plan for the next 2 weeks? And they'd say, I really want, one kid was like, I want to make a mobile. I was like, let's do it. do it. Out of what? So I think it depends. It does depend on your teacher. It does depend on, that motivation. Don't get me wrong. I had kids that I don't think I ever really made a great connection with. But I had kids I did, so that's cool too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, bringing it back to what I was saying earlier about shop class, and I think art class for me was much more inspirational than shop class. And I don't think I fully appreciated it until I took it in high school. In elementary school, I think, number one, I had very strict art teachers, and they were good in hindsight, but I just didn't really like them at the time. But then in high school, like when I kind of developed some better motor skills and kind of had a bit more creative freedom and empowerment in like what I could do, I was like, wow, this is like really interesting and fulfilling and fun. But at the same time, I was also doing a million other things in high school. And so I never really gave it its full attention as I could have at that time, because I was just focused on all these other things.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's really interesting, the teaching for artistic behavior. I feel like I would have loved that.
You would love it. And I think that's probably something you'd want to look at and do with your camp, because I think in a camp setting, you do that anyway. Like if you're going to be making things and you really want to design like a pinball machine, like, teaching artistic behavior is like sitting with the group and saying, what's the design going to look like? What's the end product? What do we want to do? Who wants to be in charge of the pulley? Who wants to be in charge of making the pinball? Like,
exactly. Yeah. It's a lot of what I think we're dancing around in our planning. It's like, okay, well, a group of grade 4 or 5, 9 to 10-year-olds, they're not going to necessarily have all the ideas to like make a from scratch arcade machine. So like as an instructor, as a counselor, you're going to have to guide them. And so asking those guiding questions and having some ideas in your back pocket that you can pull out and kind of throw at them, and forming the structure that they can then fill in with their own like passions and creativity.
Right.
I think that's when we're trying to do those kind of structured design challenges and things, it sounds like that's what we're going to end up doing. And I'm definitely going to look into that because it sounds like a great resource.
It sounds awesome because there's always someone who's like into the graphics on the side of the arcade machine more than the what's happening on the inside. Mm-hmm. And there's some people who just want to flip over a pinball machine and see what the hell is on the inside. Right. And it's like, those are all three different people. Like, right. And there's another one who's only interested in playing the game. It doesn't care anything else. Right. Like, there's a lot of different personalities. And I think kind of going, if you all work together, you can actually put yourselves into a system that'll actually work on everything together. If you try and make everyone make a gumball machine, then
it's also
there's only so much you can do. Yeah,
it's also preparing kids for life, because like whenever you work in a team, it's like you're not going to have anyone necessarily giving you roles. It's figuring out your strengths and like what you're going to want to work with. And we have these 10 components that need to get done. And so if you love the graphics on the side of the pinball machine, then like by all means you should be the ones working on it and identifying those things and working on them in a team environment, versus like you said, everyone making their own gumball machine. That sounds great. It sounds like the things you should be learning in school.
Mm-hmm. When we get our CNC, I'm finally going to make my arcade machine.
Nice.
I thought you were going to make a gumball machine.
No, so I've had this plan for about 7 years now to make a TARDIS into an arcade machine.
Oh, cool.
So I think if I get a CNC first, it's going to be a hell of a lot easier to cut everything out. Because I'll just make it like with plywood sides and then just stick on the like MDF cutout.
So Emily, before we move on, there is something else I want to talk about, because I think it is a look and a style that you and I both really like. And it is the look and style of school supplies and handwriting and the whole kind of like school aesthetic. Mm-hmm. So I'll throw something at you and then I'll let you talk about it. So I have always had this sort of like, not really a dream, but just I think it'd be really cool to buy an old abandoned school and like convert it into a house, because I just love the aesthetic of like schools that were built in like the 50s, 60s, 70s. I just think they're like the most interesting places with so much history and personality. And I can see that like you appreciate that as well in your work.
I would love to live in an old house. And when I was in college, there was I lived in Little Italy, and there was an old school which they turned into apartments. And I mean, I would never be able to afford to live in one of the apartments, but the way they renovated the place was so cool. I mean, the hallways were left the hallways, and then the classrooms were turned into apartments and lofted. And, you know, one of the things I love about those old schools too is like the whole window side where the windows,
there's so much light.
Pull out. There's so much light. It's so pretty. And I love everything about the school experience. And yes, one thing I'm working on right now, like in my mind, is thinking about making jewelry boxes, and each box is catered to a different type of student or learner. So like one thing I'm interested in is like what kind of learner you guys were. Like when you were in school, what are some things you would have had in your desk, or, you know, who were your friends, or I don't know, like I'm interested, like for me, I was like super ADHD, not really paying attention, playing around with like destroyed all of my erasers and paper clips and all my pencils had bite marks. So
it sounds like exactly me.
It's like a super distracted learner.
I'm the weird kid that sits on a chair in the middle of lunch and just starts ripping up leaves.
Yes.
How much time you got?
Yeah, exactly.
Forever. Yeah, I'm curious.
For me, I was the kid who had all the like toys in his desk.
Okay.
So
you had like fidgets?
I had there was like these pens that were like super spy pens, and like one was a telescope, another was like a dart launcher, and like there were all these like weird pens, and I had like the little thing where you like push your hand into it and like it makes an imprint on the other side because it's got a bunch of pins in it. Like I had all the fun little tools and fun toys in my desk to play with while I wasn't listening to any of the teachers, and I would just draw. Which I thought about this the other day, and I went, I used to just draw spaceships all day, every day. Like in grade 4 and 5, all I did was just draw random spaceships for no good reason. I don't know why. They just did, and like I didn't even watch the any of the NASA stuff that's been going on. I don't care about it anymore. And I just went like, that's really weird because there was like a time in my life where spaceships were the only thing I thought about, and now they're landing on Mars, and I'm like, yeah, okay, get over with. I've seen this before. They've landed on a planet. Who cares? Let's go. Right? Like, get out of the news. Tell me something new. And I just think it's weird that, anyways, that's that's who I was. I was that kid with every single toy and gadget.
Yeah, that's funny.
I don't know. I think if you're looking inside of my desk in grade 5, you would have seen a lot of taken apart pens that were draining into a little plastic container because for some reason I was obsessed with wanting to write with like a quill or like an old style pen. And so my solution was I'll just drain all the ink out of these pens and then I'll have this ink that I can write with, and I'll find a feather in the woods that I can use for that. And then I spilled all that ink on the floor of my bedroom. And from the rest of the time when I lived in that house, there was this massive stain on the hardwood floor in my childhood bedroom.
Oh, I definitely have that because we used the pens to make tattoos. We would pretend to make tattoos and we blow the ink out onto your like skin.
Yeah.
So we had the same thing, and then we did the same thing. We stained our like marble countertop in one of our bathrooms.
Yeah, I mean, but if you're talking about type of learner, I mean, that's a whole other rabbit hole altogether.
Right.
I mean, I'm very lucky in that I can usually pick up things pretty quickly once they're explained to me once, and it allowed me to like do very well in school and not have to like try super hard. But it was really interesting. I was listening to the Modern Maker podcast last week, and Chris Salamone was talking about how when people describe visual things to him in words, he can't picture them. And there's a term for this. It's called aphantasia. And I actually feel very similar to that. And I noticed it when I was working at the scenery shop. And whenever I talk to like professional carpenters and they start telling you about a setup or how they're going to build something, they're like, okay, so you're going to take this block, put another block on top of it, move it to the right, put the screws here, here, and here. Then you'll have this gap. And they'll talk about these visual things. And I find it very, very difficult to follow that. Like I would need to see that visual thing. And maybe it's also because I'm not in that world. I wasn't in that world for a very long time. But when people are explaining visual things to me out loud, I find it very difficult to follow.
I'm with you on that. I always have a really hard time when anybody is explaining any directions or anything about doing something in a sequence. No, like you just have to show me so I can look and see everything.
Yeah, I'm 100% a visual learner.
Like if I can read it, I can learn it.
Yeah.
But if somebody like just speaks in front of me, I can't pay attention that long.
Yeah.
I hate reading. I honestly, I would 100% rather just watch someone on YouTube make something and then not copy it, but like I feel that if I watch someone do something, I know how to do it. Mm-hmm. But I can't read. Like I can read. I mean, I can't learn by reading. Like I'm not gonna go read something that says put the drill bit in the chuck here, and then like I just need to watch someone do it.
Right.
I guess it all depends on what it is, because I can, like my economics and marketing, reading was the only way, because there wasn't like a, here's how you do it. right? There isn't someone doing marketing, right? It's not like sawing something in half. You go, okay, well, and now I know how to saw something in half. You put it on the table saw, you adjust the fence, saw it in half. Okay, now I know how to do that, right? There isn't someone who's like, and then you do a focus group, and like there isn't like a visual representation of that and all the like economical theories and stuff. So I think with theoretical stuff, I have to read it, and I think I'm with you on practical hands-on things. I need to watch someone do it.
Yeah. I've been struggling so much in my art practice. Like, I've been trying to make these boxes, and I really, really want eventually to make a hinge on a obviously really tiny hinge like this big. And I practice it once a week. I try and make a hinge once a week, and I've been trying to make a hinge once a week for a year, and I can't do it.
Wow.
And so I finally got this book, Boxes and Lockets, where it shows you step by step. And I've been same thing. Like, I printed out the pages I needed, and I read them, and I try and do it. And I solder. I either melt everything or I solder all my hinges together. So when you see me make a hinge one day, just know that it took me years.
Wow.
But even taking it away from the practical side, like say Fusion 360, I would rather watch someone show me how to do it on YouTube than to follow these steps.
Yeah.
Even if I find something, it's like literally all the steps you need to get something done, I won't read it and I'll go find a video of someone doing it instead.
So I'm different in that respect. I can follow written step-by-step instructions pretty well with software, but when someone is explaining it to me out loud, that's where it's also that I think like my mind starts to wander, and I see something in the corner of the room, and I think, oh, that's interesting, and I'm distracted.
Yeah.
But it influences how I teach and how I conduct myself at work. Well, if someone is asking me about something, I'll literally stop the mid-sentence and be like, just show me. Like, take me over to what you're talking about and tell me about the issue. Like, I don't want to get anything lost in translation from what you're picturing into your mind to you speaking it to me listening and then trying to interpret in my own head. Like, just let's look at it together and eliminate this confusion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. I think on that, we should switch gears to our Clampmendations for this week.
Clampmendations.
Okay, so I was going to just share what I've been listening to in my workshop this week, but then you started talking about your camp, and it reminded me of this documentary I used to show the kids in my summer camps called Kane's Arcade. So I don't know if you guys have ever seen Kane's Arcade. It's like an 11-minute documentary of this, and it's from 2012. And it's of this little dude who builds a arcade in his father's shop. So you just have to watch it, and I think it would be a really sweet thing for you, especially Morley, to look at and show maybe any makers in your camp. Like, it would be really, and besides the fact that it's totally inspiring and super, super cool. You will love it. And so there, I'm going to share, that's my recommendation, my Clampmentation for the week.
That's awesome. I just started reading the Wikipedia article, and I'm definitely going to check that out. That sounds really heartwarming and interesting.
I just want to say first, thank you for saying Clampmendation.
You're welcome. That's my Clampmentation.
Well, my Clampmendation this week is going to be an oak monitor stand made by Hugh and Orr. Pretty cool. Like, he drilled at an angle with we call them Christmas tree bits. Maybe they're step bits or something. Mm-hmm. And made like all these like hollow sort of, I don't know, angled holes, and then filled it with resin. It just turned out really cool.
Sweet. Grant, Morley. My Clampmendation this week. I don't know if I've shouted out this guy before, but he's so amazing. Newcomer Roads on Instagram. He is a leather worker. I don't know what his real name is, but his handle is newcomer_Rhodes, JT. And just makes really clean, beautiful work. Today, a backpack that he just finished up popped up on my feed, and you can just tell that he takes as much time as is necessary to work on a project, like really fleshes out all the details, spends time experimenting on every aspect of it. And it's really beautiful, precise work. I like it as well because I think a lot of it is the style of leatherwork I like, where it's very clean. It's not overly like rustic or Western, but it's something that like I might actually use myself or get for someone. But yeah, check him out on Instagram, newcomer_Rhodes. Really beautiful leatherwork, and he does some really interesting process pictures as well.
I think you must have mentioned him before because I'm already following him.
Nice. So. Well, he deserves a double shout out.
Yeah, totally. I saw that backpack. It looks great. My Clampmendation for the week is going to be Mark Daner from Daner Made for hosting the Rubbish Wood Challenge. Hashtag rubbishwood21. I don't know the difference between rubbish wood and scrap wood, other than I don't know. I guess he just wanted if you pull it from the trash, then it's rubbish wood, and if you thought of saving it for instead of throwing it in the trash, then it's scrap wood. I don't know. But he's doing a little challenge. What I really love is he's very community based. He's lined up a lot of great like prizes, and he's shipping them worldwide, which I appreciate because oftentimes people limit it to the I get it, if you're in North America, you don't want to ship to Australia. If you're in Australia, you don't want to ship to North America. I understand. But when I win, it's going to cost him a bunch of money. But you can watch on he's got a playlist of all the different people. We're going to link it in the show notes. And it's really great. When I last looked, there were 17 people in the playlist, and obviously Adam hadn't added his yet, and I'm sure there's going to be a few more. Yeah, the deadline's going to be the 31st, so I'm sorry you can't actually join in anymore. But that's
I'm curious. Playlist. Has Mark actually stipulated if it's the 31st here or 31st there?
Yeah, well. I think you'd have a good argument that if you got it in on like Hawaii time on the 31st, that you'd still. He's the type of guy who'd say, you know what, we're down, right? He's not the type of guy who says, no, sorry, you missed it by 12 hours because I decided.
So this show comes out at 2 a.m. Tuesday here, which makes it Monday there at. No, 2 a.m.
Like Monday there. 2 a.m. Yeah, on
2
the
a.m. Monday there. So the day this episode comes out, if you live in America, you could probably convince Mark to let you enter the challenge. So
yes,
you have like 8 hours to get it done. So hurry up.
Yeah. If you listen to this at 2 a.m. and you're in the Eastern time zone, because that's when it gets released. So that way we release at 2 a.m. so that in case anyone's wondering. One, it's like afternoon Australia time, but two, everyone who wakes up Monday morning has got it pre-downloaded from overnight downloads.
Yes, Grant, stop telling all our secrets.
Well, it also we release it at 2 a.m., but it takes a couple of hours for it to then get pushed to everywhere else, so it gives time for everywhere. So when everyone wakes up in America at 6 a.m., it's on your platform.
Yes. It's not a secret. It's my hope that everyone else will do it so that in the morning I don't have to download because it didn't download it overnight for some reason.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry, guys.
Before I thank Patreon and before we close out the episode, Adam, do you have an Australian word of the week that we might not have heard before?
I do. All right. My Australian word of the week is chockers. CHOCKERS.
Chockers. Should we guess what it means?
Chockers.
Yes.
My first thought is something to do with chocolate.
Yes, like that's why I picked it.
Chocolate candy?
Nope. You all get a guess.
Okay.
So my first guess had to do with like, for some reason, like larger people, but I think that's like chunker. So I think I was close, but
No.
My guess was that it was like a bad word, like mother
Nope.
chalkers.
No. So chockers means very full.
no.
Oh, I
So
can
if
see
you were
that.
like, say you went to a festival and there's like, you cannot move, it's chockers.
I like it.
No, I was
I
pretty
feel
close
that
with mine.
viscerally. All right. Well, I would like to thank, before we close out this episode, everyone who supports us on Patreon, who will be able to continue listening to us talk after we say goodbye for this episode for the after show. If you want to hear more about that, you can go to patreon.com/clamp. And if you want to support the show elsewhere, we always appreciate if you share it with someone who you think might enjoy the show. Emily, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure. If people want to see your work, where might they be able to see that?
You can see my work at Emily Joyce Official on Instagram or on my website, emilyjoyce.com. And thank you very, very much for having me on the show today. I very much appreciate it. It was a really good time. So thank you.
Thank you for coming. It was good. I feel like we could have talked for so much longer. There's a lot that we didn't get to say.
After show. There we go.
After show.
Let's go talk over there.
Bye.
All right, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
So it's basically a duplex house split in two. You share a wall. But our side is split into 5 apartments, and we kind of have joint custody of the backyard. But most of them don't use it very much. So whenever Eden and I go back there to eat dinner or grill or whatever, there's usually no one back there, or they're just kind of passing through.
Yeah.
But it's good vibes.
I feel like there's people who are okay using a backyard, and there's other people who just complain about the fact that other people are using it. They would never ever use it, but they're just like, oh, those gosh darn kids are always out there using the backyard. They would never go out there though. But
Those chalkers.
Yeah.